I have a brand new automobile, and everyone in the tennis world is going crazy. Hold on though, because this wasn't just an impulsive act of kindness from a wealthy athlete. No one realized at first how profound, significant, and contentious this was. What began as a lovely moment of mentoring and acknowledgement swiftly turned into a heated discussion about privilege, merit, and the true meaning of helping the next generation of athletes. Everything was captured by the cameras. The embrace that felt like the actual transfer of a torch from one generation to the next, the shock on Eala's face, and the tears running down her cheeks. Millions of people worldwide were asking the same questions within hours. Why her? Why right now? What does this gesture actually represent in terms of tennis? A minute. Alex Eala was pleased with her progress and commemorating a major career milestone. One of the greatest athletes in human history gave her the keys to something she never anticipated, and the next minute she was standing there in total shock. Before the sun had even set, the video had received tens of millions of views after going viral on all social media platforms. Everyone had an opinion about what had just transpired, and people were sobbing, cheering, and fighting. What the viral videos in the headlines fail to convey, however, is what the majority of people do not comprehend. This dramatic moment wasn't the beginning of Alex Eala and Roger Federer's relationship. Years ago, thousands of miles away from home, a teenage girl from the Philippines was sweating through endless drills in the solitary, unglamorous corners of a training facility in Switzerland. She was pursuing a dream that seemed unattainable to everyone but herself. Alex Eala's main training facility was the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, which she entered when she was barely 14 years old. Prior to making that vital choice, however, she trained for months in Switzerland, where the Federer brand was not just legendary but ubiquitous. Young talent from all over the world were drawn to the Swiss Tennis Federation because of Roger's extraordinary success and his vast charitable efforts. One of those hungry young geniuses, Alex was quiet, incredibly driven, and unrelenting in her quest for perfection. She wasn't receiving direct coaching from Federer. Due to his many travels for competitions, sponsor duties, and his other business endeavors, he was rarely even present at the facility. However, his presence permeated every part of the training setting. His unwavering progress was ingrained in the society she worked in every day. Roger Federer eventually saw Alex Eala play on one of his infrequent trips to the training facility. He didn't announce it in a big way. He didn't post about it on social media or host a press conference. He only watched her train from the courtside. Even during regular practice sessions when no one was keeping score, he watched her footwork, evaluated her shot choices, and examined how she battled for each and every point. He was extremely impressed by what he witnessed. Following the session, Federer approached Alex as she was gathering her breath, introduced himself as though she didn't already know who he was, and said something exquisitely straightforward but quite potent. Continue. You possess something unique. Those statements became rocket fuel for Alex Eala. She supported them through every heartbreaking setback, every annoying injury, and every dark moment of uncertainty when giving up seemed preferable to going on. Roger, for his part, silently monitored her advancement. From a distance, he tracked her outcomes. He witnessed her become the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam championship at any level when she won the US Open girls singles title in 2022. He saw her enter the WTA ranks and begin her career. He admired every part of her journey, knew her narrative well, and recognized the obstacles she was overcoming as a Filipino athlete in a sport that was dominated by North America and Europe. However, none of this was known to the outside world. For the majority of casual tennis fans, Alex Eala was just a young, talented player with promise. She stood for something much more important to Roger Federer. Evidence that the next generation was prepared, proof that his efforts to provide avenues for young players were truly having an impact. Verification that the fundamental principles of tennis remained passion, selflessness, and the unwavering conviction that everything is achievable if you're prepared to put in the effort. Roger Federer didn't think twice about taking advantage of the chance to do something genuinely important that would both honor her path and inspire others. He had always had a strong belief in meaningful gestures, not for notoriety, headlines, or brand improvement, but because genuine human connection was uncommon and incredibly potent in a sport that could frequently feel commercial and chilly. This was going to be one of those occasions that will change everything. However, what precisely transpired to cause this gesture? What particular event prompted Federer to take action? At a WTA 250 event, Alex Eala defeated a top 50 player in straight sets, marking her first truly significant victory on the main tour. The match itself was electrifying due to Eala's aggressive baseline play, fearless approaches to the net, and complete refusal to be intimidated by a higher-ranked opponent. It was late April, and she had just pulled off the biggest victory of her entire professional career after months of exhausting grinding through challenger events and lower-tier WTA tournaments, fighting for every ranking point. However, the circumstances surrounding the triumph were what made it so noteworthy, not simply the victory itself. Eala's season has almost completely collapsed due to a severe wrist injury. She had undergone arduous recuperation for weeks, genuinely wondering if she'd ever been at her finest. Her standing has drastically dropped. The sponsors' investment was causing them anxiety. The pressure was so oppressive. Nevertheless, she returned stronger, wiser, and more concentrated than before. When asked about the trip and what kept her going during her worst times in her post-match interview, she gave an honest, unvarnished, and intensely personal response that Alex completely froze. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. She turned to Roger, absolutely speechless, and he just smiled warmly. "You've earned this," he said firmly. "Not because of one match, but because of everything you've done to get here." She couldn't hold it in anymore. The tears came flooding out. She hugged him again, this time longer and harder, and the crowd erupted in thunderous applause. Roger handed her the keys. She held them like they were made of the most fragile glass, still in complete disbelief. The cameras captured every single second, her trembling hands, her tearful smile, the way Roger gently placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, as if to say, "You belong here among the elite." And then she spoke. Through the tears, through the overwhelming emotion washing over her, she managed to say, "I don't even know what to say. This is everything. Thank you. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." Within minutes, the video was absolutely everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, news outlets, sports channels across the globe. The clip of Alex breaking down emotionally, of Roger's quiet, knowing smile, of the keys being handed over, it went viral instantly. Millions of views in the first hour alone, tens of millions by the end of the day. But the internet wasn't just passively watching, it was reacting. And not everyone saw the moment the same way. Because as genuinely beautiful as the moment was, it sparked a heated debate that absolutely nobody saw coming. The first wave of reactions was pure emotion. Fans flooded social media with messages of overwhelming support, admiration, and inspiration. "This is what sports is really about," one viral tweet declared. "Roger Federer is an absolute class act," said another. Thousands of people shared the video with captions like, "I'm not crying, you're crying, and this is why we love tennis." Alex's compatriots in the Philippines were especially moved. The hashtag Proud Pinoy trended for hours. News outlets in Manila ran the story on continuous loop. Parents posted about showing the video to their children, using it as a powerful lesson in perseverance and humility. For many Filipinos, it was a moment of intense national pride, a young Filipina being honored by one of the greatest athletes of all time. But as the hours passed, the tone began to shift noticeably. Questions started popping up, comments that were less celebratory and far more critical. Why her? Some asked pointedly. There are so many struggling players. Why does she get a luxury car? Others quickly pointed out that Alex came from a relatively privileged background compared to other athletes from developing nations. Her father was a professional basketball player. She had access to elite training opportunities from a young age. "This isn't a rags to riches story," one viral tweet claimed bluntly. "It's privilege rewarding privilege." Then came the inevitable think pieces. Sports journalists began debating whether Federer's gesture, while clearly well-intentioned, actually sent the wrong message. Does this create unrealistic expectations for young athletes? One article questioned, "Are we celebrating hard work, or are we celebrating proximity to fame?" Another piece directly questioned the optics. Federer could have donated that money to a tennis development program in Africa or Southeast Asia. Instead, he gave a luxury car to someone who's already on the rise. The criticism wasn't universal by any means, but it was loud and it forced people to choose sides. Some fiercely defended Roger, arguing he had every right to honor someone he'd personally mentored and believed in. Others argued that in a sport already heavily criticized for its lack of diversity and accessibility, gestures like this, however kind, simply reinforced existing inequalities. Alex stayed completely silent for the first 24 hours. Her team wisely advised her to let the moment speak for itself. But the noise grew progressively louder. Comments on her Instagram ranged from heartfelt congratulations to genuinely harsh accusations. "You didn't earn this. You were just in the right place at the right time." And then the conspiracy theories started gaining traction. Some skeptical fans claimed the entire thing was staged by Mercedes-Benz as an elaborate marketing stunt. Notice how perfectly framed the car reveal was. One detailed TikTok breakdown suggested this was planned months ago. Others speculated that Federer's various sponsorship deals required him to do a certain number of public appearances and charitable gestures. And this was simply a strategic PR move, cleverly disguised as genuine mentorship. Even other professional players weighed in. One former WTA pro, speaking anonymously to a tennis podcast, said bluntly, "Look, I'm happy for Alex, but let's be real. There are girls grinding in challengers who literally can't afford plane tickets to tournaments. Roger's gesture is nice, but it's also tone-deaf to the reality most players face." The debate absolutely raged, and Alex, sitting alone in her hotel room, reading the comments late at night, felt the crushing weight of it all. This was supposed to be the best moment of